we were bonded, like they would never leave. And then one day I get a call and they left to save $600 a month to go with somebody else. It hit me. I'm like going, I just lost 70% of my income. What do I do?
Welcome to the Jolly and Sorcery Knowledge Series, made for smart business leaders who want to stay ahead of the competition using proven strategies. Each session, Jolly and Sorcery chat with an authority in a specific digital niche. From SEO to PR and beyond, these leaders reveal the tactics and mindsets that changed their game and could change yours. Without further ado, here's your host, Greg Heilers.
Awesome. Blake, thank you so much for joining us. Obviously, we were talking before this. I noticed some comments of yours over in Traffic Think Tank, and so that's what led me to think about this, and then we connected. I really admire what I saw you shared, your employee experience at your agency. You also shared some things about how you find balance when you're growing and you have a small clientele pool, and make that work as the business owner too, that balancing act. And then we were talking specifically about employees versus contractors. Jolly is all contractor and you guys are employee, and I admire that a lot. So I'd love for you to intro yourself if you don't mind. I mean, you've been with Rickety Roo for I think 3 times as long as we've been in existence as a company. So cool. So
yeah, sure. So my name's Blake Denman. I'm the president and founder of Rickety Roo Inc. We're a local SEO agency based in Bend, Oregon. My team is entirely remote, and we're spread throughout the country. I founded Rickety Roo in February of 2009, so a little more than 12 years of being in business. I've been doing local SEO specifically for a little more than 14 years now. And I guess some caveats: I'm a local search ranking factors survey contributor. I write for SEMrush, and I'm also I speak at conferences on local search, and I'm also a member of the Local U faculty. Also, I'm an advocate for Traffic Think Tank.
Yes, what an awesome community, and thank you for the intro. I think local is such an interesting niche because I don't operate in that, and the services, if you look at Rickety Roo's service clients on the website, it's so obvious. These are real business owners with, it really matters to them and their community, the people you're serving. So it's kind of a special niche to operate in, I think.
Yeah, no, it's a lot of fun. And we don't work with enterprise clients. I like working with small to medium-sized businesses. When I talk to somebody about results, I'm talking to most of the time it's the owner. And last month we were talking to a client, and he's in a real small area, and his goal is to grow by 11% every year, which for him equates to about $100,000 in revenue. And last year, his goal was to grow by $100,000 in revenue, and last year he grew by $200,000 in revenue. And so a lot of it's attributed to stuff we've been doing for him, and it's so cool to get that feedback from the client, this is really helping us and we're able to grow more. I really, really enjoy it.
Yeah, it's amazing. I kind of am curious to dive into at some point the client side of interactions at your company. What we had agreed to talk about is more how you manage your company and the team. But maybe we could get to that if that makes sense. I'm
entirely up to you.
Okay, I appreciate it. I'm curious to lead us off. Where would you say, in the founder's journey or the small business owner, you referenced that client example, where are you at today at 12 years in? Obviously you're not a solopreneur, and you've got a fully remote distributed team, let's call it. What's next for you, would you imagine? And what kind of phase did you just come out of? Where are you at?
So currently, I'm in the phase of my process of phasing out of being the account manager and being the only one who talks to clients on a monthly basis. So I hired an account manager, Kim. She started with us in December.
Nice.
And so we've been slowly transitioning that AM role more towards her, where my goal is to still be on at least a quarterly call with each client that she's running. So like I'm still facilitating that, and I definitely want to be on calls where strategy is involved, because one of our differentiators is we only operate in 3-month sprints. Like,
Yes.
like when I send an agreement, it's for 6 months, but there's only work scheduled for 3 to 4 months, and that's by design.
Yeah.
Like I can't build a strategy roadmap until we've actually done the research to figure out where the client is and where they want to get to. Then we build deliverables specifically designed to help them achieve those goals.
Yeah, and we wanted to get into like documentation later, but I can't imagine having your service without having your processes down, right? There's no
Mm-hmm.
time there. It's right there on your site, your USP, like you're not locking people in for a year saying like at some point there's going to be deliverables and we're going to aim for these results. Like you need to deliver your
Right.
service.
Yeah.
That's you're dealing with service providers themselves, so they know well and good if they're being served or not.
Mm-hmm.
It's really interesting. You mentioned your new team member. One thing that stuck out for me, just business owner to business owner, and I think that's maybe who this recording might appeal more to, is you mentioned you have incredibly low employee churn, right? You said
Mm-hmm.
nobody even left in the past couple of years, correct me if I'm wrong, and the couple that did leave prior to that were for very personal reasons, and one even returned a year later. So that's part of what stuck out at me as like, employee versus contractor. Obviously, we don't have 100% retention on our contractor team. I'm curious if you could speak to that. Like, what do you think? What would you attribute to that, or how does that manifest in its team at your culture?
So like there's like one word that could summarize my culture for the team, and that's balance. Um, my full-time employees, they are all salaried, whether they work 20 hours or 40 hours a week. But for my salaried full-time people, I don't want any of them working more than on average 35 hours per week.
That's right in your job ads, which is super cool.
Right. So like I don't want anyone getting burnt out. It's not a guarantee, but like I'd say 85 to 90% of the time, that's where it's at. Like when a team member submits harvest their timesheet, and it's, I've seen average between 31 and 33 hours. I don't balk at that at all.
Yes.
Um,
You lose that
no,
2 hours, but you keep that 6 months of, someone who's enjoying the team experience. It's like if you need to boil it down that way, like in terms of numbers,
Yeah, it's and that's by design. I don't personally subscribe to not working more than 35 hours a week because it's my business.
I know.
Maybe one day I'll eventually work.
So do you just, perhaps to point blank, considering we're meeting now, do you wish that you personally subscribed to that?
Yes and no. Sometimes the things I work on when I shouldn't be working on them are because I'm really interested in the subject. So it's I don't really consider it work, or it's not like billable time to a client. It's more like I literally have on this piece of paper right in front of me, it's an onboarding automation, like our entire onboarding process. I want to automate the whole thing.
It's well worth the time.
Right. So it's worth the time, but I can't do that during regular business hours because I've got other things I have to work on. So if I do happen to find myself working on a Saturday or Sunday or in the evening, it's usually on something like that I'm really interested in. So, maybe one day I'll get there eventually, but that's just not in the cards right now. And I'm okay with it. And then outside of that, like there is my management style, if you want to call it that, is I don't really have one. I don't micromanage anybody. I think the other key feature is that is enabled me to keep like my team and not have anybody churn is my team. They dictate when they work. There's no set schedule. I'm not a babysitter. They don't have to be in their chair working from home from 9 to 5 days a week. If a team member wants to work like 3 12-hour days and then take the rest of the week off, cool. I don't care when you work as long as the job gets done.
And that's documented and proven at scale, right? Like you're doing a very advisable move. It seems like you intuited that people need to set their own schedules.
Yeah. Like it's having them chained to a desk from a certain period of time. It's like Monday through Friday. It's kind of like jail. right?
We work more than the 35 hours as the business owners, and yet we couldn't possibly follow that, right? Like we couldn't say like, I have to work in these time periods. It doesn't work like that.
No, I mean, I'm really detailed with my calendar and my time. So like my schedule is typically from like 8:15 in the morning till 5 or 6 at night on
Mm-hmm.
any given day. But just last week, I just wasn't feeling it. I was just like, you know what? I'm going to take a day or two off. Like I've got to get done what I got to get done, but then I'm going to take the rest of the day off. And same thing happens with our team members. You know, one of our team members, she had a migraine a few weeks ago, so she took the rest of the day off. No
Yeah.
big deal.
What are you going to
Like,
do?
okay.
Work through a migraine cut.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Really cool, Blake. I mean, I admire that. I can't say that we honestly, I mean, frankly, we don't have a schedule because we're a team of contractors. You know, but I can't say that we completely, you know, it's not completely laissez-faire. You know, we expect people to meet the expectations of what they signed up for. Whatever they personally committed to, we expect that to be fulfilled. You know, it's similar with an employee. You trust them, you hired them, you have to trust them for the role they signed up for.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah,
I guess I'm just curious, from the start, or was there a transition point for you? Like, did you always have you and then, okay, I'm big enough to get an employee, or was it a natural progression of filling the gaps until there was enough to go around?
honestly, like the first five-ish years of being in business, it was just me.
Right.
Like back then, I didn't really have any goal with the company. I had a handful of clients. I was paying my rent. I was in my early 20s. And I was just kind of like, yeah, I'm skating along until I figure out what I really want to do. I didn't really have any specific goals. And then I met my now wife, and I realized it'd be kind of cool if I didn't have to do all of the work anymore, including like my bookkeeping and the admin stuff. So then ever since then, like I've been slowly kind of building my team. But then last year, like my team, I think doubled in size. And then this year we probably won't double again, but we'll get close to doubling again in size.
So you're really making a good push right now, it sounds like you said, to go from real all in on operator mode to more strategic on the business side and less every single minute operating, shall we say. But that like, balance you said too, you know, you want to stay in touch with your clients. Yeah, that's
absolutely. Because like I don't have any sales reps, so like when someone is interested in talking to us about our services, they're talking to me directly. So I can't just bring them on board and say, all right, you're gonna deal with my team now. See you later. I'll never talk to you again. Yeah. So no, that's not really a part of it. Like now we're introducing them to their project manager and to the account manager, and then kind of say like, look, after our kickoff call, I'm still going to be on the calls, but I won't be on all of them. And your AM is going to run most of these calls on any given basis. I'm CC on all communications, and I'm definitely working on a strategy with your AM too.
Yeah. You're busy doing the strategy, not necessarily all that back and forth. I guess that leads us kind of into, you had a quote, and I think I copied and pasted, so I'll get it right. You wrote, if a process doesn't exist, you'll then be the source of all questions from your team, and the quality of work won't be great. I mean, I couldn't agree more. We stumbled into documentation, and, you know, people on our team like to laugh and throw out the word SOP with exclamation marks at one point in the transition to like, oh man, we got to get used to this. Like, but where for you, I guess, do you try, when you come across a new responsibility at your company, do you try to throw up like an outline, let's say, or are you more asking your employees like, look, as you work through this, can you document what you're doing? And it builds out from there historically?
So historically, all the processes were originally built by me.
Right.
And then as the team started to kind of grow, and I've always told my team, like, all of our processes are living documents. They're not engraved in stone. If you find a better way, I want to know about it, and then you can update it. And we just, like, this was actually Kim's idea. It wasn't mine. We're calling it Cafe Disco, which, like, you can see Dwight Schrute back here. I'm a big Office fan. Where every month the team is going to get together and we're going to go over certain processes together and see if there's a better way to go about that given process, or if we need to improve on it. So I'm really excited to kind of get started with that. So that way our processes just aren't shelved and then referenced whenever they feel like they need to be referenced.
Yeah, I'm not that familiar with The Office, so I missed a reference. But I think if I follow, sounds like something we at Jolly should be doing. Quite frankly, get all the relevant people and see what an outsider would bring to the discussion, perhaps, or just at least let the person doing it daily, weekly ask questions and be like, "Is this optimal? I'm not sure."
Right. Or there might be a better way of going about this. Like we're actually bringing in speakers. I think we're averaging right now once a quarter. So early this year, we brought in a pretty well-known link builder to kind of talk to the team. And then early April, we're bringing in Dave Ojeda, who is also a TTT member, we're just calling it Schema School. And he's going to talk to us and educate us on how he approaches schema. And then
Cool.
we'll take that and say, okay, how do we adapt this to our processes? What do we need to change? What do we need to change to? So that way we're always ahead of the curve.
Super smart. We don't do anything like that. You could adopt a mindset of, competitor, and so could Dave, right? But it's more like, skillful practitioner. Let's up our game a little.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's awesome. I guess there's no segue for what I was hoping to get to next, but it still falls under business owner. I'm not sure if I exchanged comments with you or I saw what you wrote. And so many people talk about this. As a business, you always want to keep your pipeline full, right, of clients, even if you want to keep it small. You talked about an example I wanted to share after this. I'm just curious for your particular pipeline, like where are you at in terms of Rickety Roo? Are you doing cold outreach? Are you doing like more brand development? There's so many different ways people could play it, and I have to apologize, I didn't study well enough. I could have probably answered if you're doing social or not, at least myself, if I looked.
Very little social, to be honest. Like I can't remember the last time I submitted a tweet.
And yet you're in TTT, and I consider it almost like a form of social,
Right, which it absolutely is. Like I've been kind of spending some time on Clubhouse just because it's fun. But I don't approach it as like a lead generation strategy. Most of our inbound leads right now, they've historically, a lot of times they come from referrals, but we also have strategic referral sources too that send us good referrals. Nice. And one of the niches that we're focusing on more and more, there are organizations that exist that have like strategic partners within their network. And so I'm slowly working our way into getting into one of the largest ones, which will turn into a really great lead source for us too. Like I always thought maybe 4 or 5 years ago that the holy grail to inbound leads was to be a conference speaker. Mm-hmm. Like if you speak at conferences, that's like flipping on a switch but that's not the case.
Well, you did that. So that's not the case.
I mean, I've gotten some business from speaking conferences, but for the amount of time I spend putting together like a presentation, which can take me anywhere from 25 to 40 hours just to put the deck together and make it look good, and then travel and doing all that, right? It just wasn't proving to be like a massive, like worth it on an ROI standpoint. But it is nice to reference, like when I'm pitching a prospect and say, look, I speak at conferences on this subject. Here's who I write for. Here's all this. Here's some clients you can talk to as well. It does help. But
luckily, that was younger Blake. You can still reference it, and you'd be like, I did the circuit. You still got the creds, and you can just
still got them. Like I primarily go to conferences now. I mean, we haven't because of COVID in the last year, but once like in-person conferences are happening again, I'll probably still speak at a couple conferences a year, but it's not going to be, I think last year I spoke at 4 or 5 conferences in the year, and it was a lot. But I don't think, maybe 2, 3 max every year from now on.
Yeah. I mean, it's a good thing too, to connect with your industry, and perhaps I'm assuming incorrectly, maybe you're going to conferences not necessarily related to SEO either. So I don't know.
Most of the conferences I speak at are like your PubCon, Stay a Search, Local U, So like
Cool.
they're pretty, I mean, they're digital marketing conferences in general, but I mainly go now or want to go and want to speak so I can go hang out with my industry friends.
Right. Yeah.
That's really
I'm
it.
imagining that. Morgan and I keep saying like, we'll make it to Thailand if we're allowed to attend. Oh shoot, I forgot Matt Diggity's conference they have over there, but we could find an excuse for that. That'd be all right.
Yeah.
Um, I guess you know I really just wanted your insight on this last question I had planned, but we could almost end it on that note. I feel like that's more than enough information for someone to know where you'd be at your stage. I guess for the early stage person though, it's still worth asking you. You know, you talked about in the early years, you really learned the hard way about balancing your revenue between the clients, right? And there's different numbers people state, like no more than 40%, or no more than 50%, or no more than 80%, or no more than 20%. And what do you think for a new agency owner? Like, what's that goal from a single client as a source of revenue? But how would they intentionally limit that and keep pushing to minimize that while obviously doing the work that they need as an early business owner?
Right. It's there's no like definitive answer. It
Yeah.
depends on everyone's comfort level. Like what happened to me was 70% of my income came from one account, and I would drive down and visit them every week. A long time ago, I suffered a severe traumatic brain injury. Like they came and visited me in the hospital. Like I
Gee.
thought we were bonded. Like they would never leave. And then one day I get a call, and they left to save $600 a month to go with somebody else. It hit me. I'm like going, oh crap! I just lost 70% of my income. What do I do? And so like that was a lesson that I learned. But like if someone has a handful of clients and like let's say there's 4 clients and each one is the same, right? 25%. It's more of if one of them leaves, are you going to be able to pay your bills and are you going to be okay? If not, it's probably a good idea to consider bringing on an additional client or two where if one or two of them left, you're not going to be hurting to make your mortgage payment or your car payments or put food on the table for you and your family. Um, like we had a client leave last month and they were a pretty large client, but I knew when they came on because they had many websites and they also had an internal team that they would never be a permanent client, that they would eventually leave. It just happened to be that they left last month. And I never really relied on the revenue. So like when they left, I didn't have to scramble to with my pipeline be like, oh crap, we need new business to replace it. Otherwise I can't pay myself or I'm gonna have a hard time paying the company's health insurance or the 401k match. I was prepared for it.
Yeah.
So like anything with SEO, the answer, it depends,
Yeah, it depends.
right?
Perhaps the best way to end this one. I really appreciated this, Blake. I think, you know, if anyone wants to find you, first of all, you guys should consider TTT, but ricketyroo.com. And I don't know, Blake, if you want to direct people anywhere else. Thank you for coming on.